Somewhere between Iran and Oman, there is a strip of water just 33 kilometers wide at its narrowest point. It doesn't look like much on a map, but every single day, roughly 20 million barrels of oil pass through here. It is nearly 1/5 of the entire world's supply. This is the Strait of Hormuz. In late February 2026, Israel and the United States launched strikes on Iran.
The United States and Israel have launched airstrikes across Iran.
Iran responded by hitting American military bases across the Middle East.
Qatar saying an Iranian ballistic missile has struck Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. That is the largest military installation for the United States in the entire Middle East.
And then came the move the world had long feared but never seen. Iran closed the Strait of Hormuz. For the first time in modern history, the valve of the global energy system was shut. Oil prices surged past $100 a barrel within days. Tankers sat idle. Supply chains that feed billions of people ground to a halt. What had always been a theoretical worst-case scenario had become reality. To understand why that single act shook the entire world, you need to understand what this strait actually is and why nothing can replace it. Look at the Persian Gulf. It is essentially a closed sea. Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait, the UAE, Qatar, Iran, they all sit inside it. And the only way to get oil or gas out by ship is through a single exit, this strait. Think about Qatar. It produces about 20% of the world's liquefied natural gas. It sits deep inside the Gulf. If it wants to sell that gas to Japan, to South Korea, to Germany, there is no other route. The tanker leaves Qatar, travels north, turns east through the strait, and enters the open ocean. That is the only option. Some pipelines exist to go around the strait. The UAE built one connecting its oil fields to the port of Fujairah on the other side. Saudi Arabia has one too, but together, these pipelines can only move around 7 million barrels per day, a fraction of the 20 million that pass through the strait. There is simply no alternative at scale. Most people think of this strait as an oil route, and it is, but it carries far more than that. About 20% of the world's liquefied natural gas moves through here, mostly from Qatar. 1/3 of all global fertilizer trade passes through the strait because the natural gas used to produce fertilizer comes largely from the Gulf. And going in the opposite direction into the region, ships carry food, medicine, technology, and everyday goods that Gulf countries depend on. In normal times, around 3,000 ships cross each month. The total value of energy alone flowing through this passage is estimated at nearly $600 billion every year. It is not just a shipping lane, it is a lifeline running in both directions. Here is what makes the Strait of Hormuz so vulnerable. At its narrowest point, the shipping lanes lie entirely within the territorial waters of Iran and Oman, within 12 nautical miles of each coastline. Iran controls the northern shore completely. This means that in theory, Iran can mine the strait, fire on tankers with fast attack boats, or make passage so dangerous that ships simply stop going through. In 2026, that is almost exactly what happened. As conflict escalated, Iran threatened tankers and attacked commercial vessels. By March, traffic through the strait had dropped by 95%. Insurance costs became extreme. Ships stopped going through. The impact was immediate. Oil prices spiked to around $100 a barrel. In Asia, countries like the Philippines have declared a national energy emergency following the closure of over 400 gas stations due to limited fuel supply, sparked by supply disruptions from the war in the Middle East.
It's now to the Philippines, which has declared a year-long national energy emergency in response to Iran's blocking of the Strait of Hormuz.
Also, governments began rationing energy and ordering people to work from home. In Africa, countries restricted electricity consumption. In Europe, Slovenia became the first EU member to implement fuel rationing.
Queues are forming at fuel stations across Slovenia, with some locations reporting diesel shortages.
All of it traced back to one narrow waterway. When people ask why the world doesn't simply build more pipelines and bypass the strait altogether, the answer is simple: the numbers don't work. The UAE's Fujairah pipeline moves 1.8 million barrels a day at maximum capacity. Saudi Arabia's bypass pipeline adds a little more, but a closure of the strait removes 20 million barrels a day from global markets. Even if every bypass route ran at full capacity, the supply gap would still be 12 million barrels per day. No pipeline, no alternative route, and no strategic reserve can cover that. This is why the United States has maintained a naval presence in the region for decades. It is why a single statement from Tehran can move oil markets worldwide. The Strait of Hormuz is 33 kilometers wide at its narrowest point, but its reach extends across every economy on Earth. It is not just a waterway, it is the valve of the global energy system, and right now, the world has no replacement for it.